This is Carol from the STS. This is the Adult Cardiac Surgery Database monthly webinar for October 6th, 2021. On the line with me from STS, I have Leanne Jones, Catherine Holyfield, Melinda Offer, and Sydney Clinton. We have Annie joining us today as well. And then from IQVIA, we have Jean, Joe, Paul, and Steve. Melanie is not able to join us today. So we're going to get started. Thanks to all the folks who joined and to all the panelists who are here to help us out, each other. Okay, important dates, STS updates, IQVIA update, some STS education, and then some Q&A. For the education, we're going to go over Melinda's going to go over a few of the FAQs that were updated in the October training manual. I'll be talking about the 3-year CABG Composite, which will start with Harvest 3 of 2021, and then some other volume requirements for star ratings, just as a refresher. Important dates for adult cardiac. Today is October 6th, and we're at our monthly webinar right now. AQO is next week. Adult cardiac is on October 14th. If you, even if you do not participate in the other databases, we have some social events that are happening, I think Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning. Let me double check that real quick, what days they were. Hold on. If you are able to join those earlier sessions, yeah, it'll be Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday morning. If you're able to join those sessions, they're going to be, they're listed on the agenda for the time that they'll start. They're a lot of fun, and we'll be hosting them along with a few other, one of our other consultants will be hosting Thursday and Friday. So please do your best if you're available to just hop on for a short time and join us. And then the day dedicated to adult cardiac will be on Thursday. That will be preceded by a general session. On November 3rd, we have our monthly webinar for adult cardiac at 2 p.m. Central. We do not have a user group call in October, so we just have this monthly webinar and then November's monthly webinar. November 12th, Harvest 4 will close. That will contain OR dates through September 30th of 2021. The opt-out for Harvest 4 is November 16th. That's when it ends. And then November 17th is our user group call for November. All right. And let's see here. STS updates. Don't forget, if you haven't already, which I think most of you have, your AQO registration is open. Be sure to get registered. If you're unable to attend, if you're on vacation or something like that, still register so you can get access to the recordings after AQO. Harvest 3 data is an analysis at DCRI. There was a slight delay as the surgeon leaders were finalizing the CABG Composite update, which went from the rolling 12 months to a rolling 36 months. We'll go over that in a little bit more detail, but that's why those reports are delayed. And we hope to have them back within the next few weeks from DCRI and populated on the IQVIA dashboard. October training manual is posted, and Melinda did a great job getting that up and ready prior to AQO. And then I just wanted to give a quick update on the 2019-2020 audit. It's in place right now. We're pretty close to being complete auditing all of the sites. We hope to have those results out to the sites within the next couple months. We just have to finalize and review them at STS and then send them off when we get them from our audit company. And this year's audit's looking really like everybody's doing a great job. So more to come on that, but I just want to give a quick update on that. That is in process. And now I'm going to hand it over to the famous Joe Brower. Joe?
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I do have quite a few items to cover today, so bear with me. The following items are known issues that are being targeted for our next release. We don't have a date to share yet, but these items are all going to be, or all slated to be into the next one whenever we are able to get that out to you. So starting with some items related to the participant dashboard, STS 6485, we have received feedback regarding how the postoperative stroke data is displayed in the participant dashboard report. We're looking into ways to reconcile the simple yes response from version 2.9 with the various yes responses from version 4.20.2. So that's something we are working on and we'll be looking to update for the next release. STS 7173, unable to select multiple rows in the ASD participant dashboard and to review drill down results. So we are aware of that issue. You should be able to control click and select multiple lines and get multiple selections displayed in your case drill down. So that is something that will be corrected in an upcoming release as well. STS 7175. When exporting graph data to Excel, the data is different between the online graph and the exported graph, and so we are looking into aligning those results. STS 7193, the total postoperative ventilation hours is displaying as missing when the extubated in OR question is answered as NA, which should not count as missing. And so we are looking to fix that. And then STS 7152, the dashboard does not display the counts for patients marked as expired in OR within the MT-OPD plus died in hospital plus died in OR line of that report. So we are aware that those counts are incorrect and we're looking to get that updated soon. Moving on to the analyze risk adjusted dashboard. Some items related to this that will be resolved, STS 6706. Some variables used in the report calculations were not correctly updated to align with version 4.20.2. So we are correcting the report logic to correct that. STS 6747, we received a report that when exporting the risk adjusted dashboard, the results displayed in the Excel table were different from those displayed on the same report when you look at it on the website itself. So this has been reviewed and a fix will be applied in our next release. STS 6785, the NQF outcomes measures are displayed as a percentage and should display as a ratio. And so that will be adjusted for our next release as well. STS 7008, when comparing the complications data between the risk adjusted and regional outcomes report and the same results in the benchmark report, there appears to be a discrepancy in the STS aggregate data for the AVR plus CABG procedure type. So we did identify the cause of what's causing that, and we will be implementing a fix to align those values for you. STS 7037, the 2019 surgeon-specific composite report is displaying blank results when loading the report for surgeons to have a suffix in their account profile. So if you are a senior or a junior or a third, those are having a weird interaction with the system, and so we're going to get that fixed so that those results display correctly for you. STS 7045, the MVR is displaying various anesthesia variables as missing, even when the flag indicating that the site participates in the anesthesia module is set to no. So we will be correcting the report logic so that sites that are not anesthesia sites do not get flagged for those variables being missing. And STS 7183, the calculation for blood products used is incorrectly referencing the archived parent variable intra blood products refused. And so that will be corrected in the next release as well. And finally, STS 7236, when exporting the rating trends report to a PDF, the exported report is putting the July 2019 to June 2020 data after the January 2020 to December 2020 data, so that's chronologically incorrect. And so we will be correcting that to move that to the correct location. And one more small slide. Some items related to the missing variable report, STS 6781. We are looking into reports that the NQF variables filter on the MVR is not correctly including the variables it should be. So we will be getting that up to snuff. STS 6832. I mentioned something related to this in the DQR earlier, but the total postoperative ventilation hours are displaying as missing when extubated in OR is answered NA. And so that's double impacted both in the DQRs when you upload your files and in the missing variable report. And so both of those items will be corrected. They just have different issue numbers when we're tracking them. And then the last one here, STS 7194. We are aware that the MVR is not flagging surgical site infection as missing when it should be, and so that will be fixed as well. We do have, for those of you who are not aware, in the library, there is a link in there for a known issues list. So if you want to review that, it is available to you. We do update that periodically. So if you're experiencing something, feel free to check that document within the library, and that will give you a list of things that we are currently aware of as of whatever that document was posted.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you for providing the known issues to us. Is there any, I know the release timing is listed as TBD, but any inkling as to when these might be up?
You could ask Melanie that question if she were here.
Okay, that's all right.
She's not, so I don't know.
That's all right. I'll have to get, I'll check in with her and find out. Thank you. This is helpful. Thank you very much. All right, and then the list of known issues has been updated. I talked to Melanie earlier this week and she posted a up-to-date list, I think on Monday or Tuesday. And IQVIA update, submitted tickets are, go ahead.
Yeah,
sorry.
The usual reminders that if we didn't address something on today's webinar that you had reported, please rest assured that we are looking into those items, even if we didn't include them on this webinar. And we are reviewing additional items to bring to your attention for an upcoming release. And we will post any updates to the notifications section, so keep your eyes posted there.
Great, thank you. And then the IQVIA, sorry, my mouse got crazy. The IQVIA support plan, nothing's really changed here. And we're going to go over to the STS education for October 2020, 2021. And I'm going to hand it off to Melinda for the FAQ updates from October. Melinda?
Hi, everyone. This is Melinda. So we don't have a great deal of updates in October, but we have a few ones that needed to get out before AQO. So going to kind of go over just to highlight a couple of them. So for previous cardiac intervention sequence 805, we've just clarified that a temporary pacemaker is not considered a previous cardiac intervention. It's temporary. It's not a permanent device. For sequence 4135, we had a long discussion with a great many surgeon leadership MDs over the last, I don't know, it's probably been about a month this has been going on. Historically, in the training manual and in the past, if you've had some complex reconstruction for an endocarditis patient, we just said, oh, that's a complex endocarditis case, and you really shouldn't be coding anything else. And I kept getting a lot of questions about this. I saw more and more cases coming in. So we, of course, revisited this issue. And we wanted to revisit it before AQA because we have a great presentation on endocarditis for you this year. So the training manual that came out in October says that for endocarditis patients, an aortic or mitral valve replacement, which requires the use of patch reconstruction of any part of the aortic and/or mitral valve annulus, increases the inherent risk of the procedure, justifying the coding of sequence 4135, other cardiac other. So what does that mean? Well, basically, the key components are here is you have to have patch reconstruction. It has to involve the annulus. The only place we can code this is sequence 4135 because there's really no other place in the current form to code this. But the surgeons felt like that this did add risk and would want it to be removed from an isolated procedure. So that's probably a pretty significant update. We wanted to get that out. The next one has to do with AFib. A lesion other includes the ablation to the Coumadin ridge. I had never even heard of that. And so when I have to ask Dr. Badwar questions, I figure I need to put those in the training manual. So I put that in for you guys in case you encounter that. The last one has to do with renal failure. I thank Judy for this, Judy from Virginia. So it came to my attention that the way people were interpreting things that were in the training manual were they were inconsistent. So I know that most of you know that if you have a pre-op creatinine, which is sequence 605, greater to or equal than 4, then that patient is removed from the post-op renal failure metric. So some people were just automatically removing those patients. So for example, let's say the patient had a pre-op creatinine of 4.2. They weren't on dialysis, so you didn't code pre-op dialysis. But when you got to post-op, the patient had to have dialysis, but some people were saying, oh, well, they're excluded, so we're just going to code no to renal failure. Other people were coding yes to renal failure, knowing that the patient would be excluded on the back end. So Carol and I talked about this when this was brought to our attention, the inconsistencies, and we basically decided, well, we probably should just make it clear how we want this to be done. So in the October training manual update, so if your patient's pre-op creatinine, sequence 605, is equal to or greater than 4, then do not code post-op renal failure or dialysis as a complication. So you can just exclude those patients yourself, like I think a large majority of people are already doing, but at least we have that in the training manual now so that it's clarified. And that's all I have. There's a couple more updates, some wording issues, but nothing significant. I think these were probably the big ones.
Thanks, Melinda. This is really helpful. I just have a question on the other cardiac procedures, because this is kind of it seems like it's a significant change than what we've been doing in the past. And it all comes down to the surgeons deciding, last week that this is, these patients are now higher risk. What are sites expected to go back and recode this field, or should they leave it as is and go forward from October 1st?
We have to go forward from October the 1st. I know some sites might want to go back and redo this, but if you're audited, you're going to be audited at the training manual that was available at the time of the procedure. So I think it's a good move. It will change things. I know some sites are going to be really happy about it, because I've had surgeons send in questions, and so I appreciate everybody who continued to send their questions in, and surgeons who had concerns, and surgeon leadership who had open to suggestions and discussion about this. I think it's actually a good change, but you got to remember it has to be a patch reconstruction, and it has to be part of the annulus. If you just go in and debride an abscess or something like that, and you're not doing any reconstruction, that's not going to count. It's going to be just like it used to be. So hopefully that clarifies that.
Yeah, and thanks, Melinda. That's really helpful, and I encourage everybody to watch that endocarditis talk that we'll have at AQO next Thursday. It's a very good talk. Took a lot of work from the surgeon and data manager who's presenting it. I think that would be Sherry and Dr.
Horvath.
Dr. Horvath are presenting on that. It's a very great presentation, so please do your best to watch it live. So you can, I think it's a live presentation, right, Melinda?
It is.
So you can ask questions if you have it. All right, well, thank you for that update. I appreciate it. Okay, I'm going to talk about the 3-year CABG Composite. And I just want to let you know, I am working on updating the report overview. I got final word today from the Analytics Center about the changes that have been approved and that will be implemented, starting with Harvest 3 2021 analysis. That's the cause for the delay in the report. So they will be implementing this with the data that you last submitted for the Harvest 3, and it will be changing. This will be impactful on the CABG Composite and its components, its component domain. So internal mammary, absence of mortality, absence of morbidity, and I think medications. We're moving from 12 months to a rolling 36 months. Harvest 3 will include OR dates from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2021. We're increasing the confidence interval from 98 to 95%. We're making a little bit wider confidence interval so you have more likelihood. It'll be more sites will be receiving, will fall within that 95 for 2-star. The number of required cases, it's 50 isolated CABGs in 36 months. Doesn't matter when those 50 cases occurred. If you're new to the registry and you had 50 cases in your first year, you would still be included within the composite, within the outcomes. Mortality threshold is going to stay the same at 2% or less, but I just wanted to give a quick example of this. We'll just look at Harvest 3, since Harvest 3s are always a little bit more tricky in determining the percent missingness. We will look at rolling 12 months. So the 3 12-month periods that will make up the total 36 months. We'll look from July 1st, 2018 to 6/30/2019. You must have 2% missing, 2% or less missing or unknown for the mortality fields. 7/1/2019 to 6/30/2020, you must have 2% missing or unknown, less missing or unknown for the mortality fields. And July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021, you must have 2% or less missing unknown for the mortality fields. So you have to meet the 2% missingness for each of these time periods to be included. If you have greater than 2% in any of these, you'll be excluded. That's the same as it has been in the past. The only difference is that instead of looking at calendar year, we're looking at rolling 12 months. NQF thresholds are going to stay the same at 5% or less. So you have to make sure you don't have more than 5% missing for the NQF measures that are used in the composite. And we're going to look at these on rolling 12 months the same way. So for 7/1/2018 through 6/30/2019, you must have 5% or less missing or unknown for these fields here. Okay, so that's what's coming. That's what will be applied in the Harvest 3 report when that comes back from the Analytics Center from DCRI, and that will be explained in the report overview, working on that language now. And then other volume requirements, I just wanted to bring this up because I got this question earlier this week from a site, and I thought it was a good question I didn't know the answer to. So I verified with the DCRI to make sure. I'm aware of the volume requirements, but it's this 4th point down here that we're going to talk a little bit about, just so we're all on the same page. So so as we said back here, for this new measure, you have to have 50 isolated CABGs in 36 months. The other volume requirements is you have to have 10 isolated AVR or AVR CABGs for these 2 ratings. For MVRR, you have to have 36 procedures. And for MVRR plus CABGs, you have to have 25 procedures. The wording that confuses me, and I don't know if it confuses you too, but it's when we combine these MVRR or MVRR CABGs under this 10 isolated. So yes, that's true, but you also need to look at the 36 procedures for MVRR and 25 procedures for the MVRR CABGs. So I would pretty much just cross that off, the MVRR and MVRR CABGs in this first bullet point, but I just wanted to pull it out exactly as the wording was in the report overview. What I thought was going to be helpful for you today was that when we look at the mortality missingness for these procedures, so you have to still meet that 2% missingness for or unknown for these other procedures that are combination procedures like MVRR, AVR CABGs, MVRR plus CAB, etc. you look at the total missingness together. So you need to look at the overall missingness for both of these procedure types. And I think we reported out that way in the IQVIA platform, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware that that's how the missingness is calculated. Missingness or unknown is calculated for these combo procedures. Oh, and now next, so we do have, I see, Sarah said go back a slide. I don't know what slide you want, Sarah, but here's the 3-year CABG Composite one. And then here's the other volume requirements for the star ratings. So at AQO this year, like I said earlier, we're going to have a couple sessions in the morning time ahead of the on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. One of those sessions is a meet and greet session, and it's going to ask you questions about STS staff. So I just want to kind of pad my results, which I'm allowed to do because this is the webinar I set up. So I just want to tell you that this is my cat Molly. This is my cat Sophie. I have played softball for many years, and I enjoy cycling. So take notes. Okay, resources. ACSD tech support at IQVIA.com will be where you want to email for help. And then you can reach out to me at ccorona@sts.org or stsdb@sts.org for operational questions. All right, I'm going to go over to the Q&A. And we have a couple questions going on. First one is from Angela. It says, do we have a tentative date for the delayed report? And we do not have a tentative date. The analysis is at DCRI, and we're still waiting to hear back. I think we hope to hear back sometime this week as to that tentative date. So we should have it soon. I just don't have it today. Next question is from Tamara. It says, if the patient had an OR on 12/30/21, was discharged on 1/21/21, I think you meant if the patient had OR on 12/30/20, was discharged on 1/21/21, and died on 1/24/21, would the mortality be included in Q4 2020 data or Q1 2021? For outcomes, we look at the OR dates. So this would be included in your Q4 or Harvest 1 report. It's Q4 data, which is the Harvest 1 report from the next year. Melinda, this is for you. Thank you for keeping all the FAQs in the training manual. We really appreciate it. It's not common for other registries. I think Melinda does a great job. Okay, so our creatinine question that we talked about a couple webinars ago and brought back up again today has stirred some controversy.
Yeah, so I'll try to explain it.
I'm going to put these back up just so people get good answers. Can I read the questions?
Yeah, so what we discovered is people were doing it. There's about 50% of the people doing it one way and 50% of the people doing it the other way. So we were just trying to come to a consensus so we all do it the same way. So I'll go over it again. And so if you have a patient that has a pre-op creatinine of 4 or greater, that patient is excluded from the post-op renal failure metric. Okay, so and that happens on the back end. Okay, but we have some sites that for their reporting and their own querying, I discovered we're excluding those patients on the front end because they were going to be excluded anyway on the back end because it made the reporting a lot easier. So even if the patient was not on dialysis pre-op, got dialysis post-op, but their pre-op creatinine was greater than 4, these sites were just saying no to the post-op renal failure because the patient was going to be excluded anyway. So Carol and I, it's funny because I was the person, I always just coded the renal failure and let it be excluded on the back end. Carol's exact opposite of me. She was like, oh no, I would exclude the patient from the beginning. So we realized that even she and I had inconsistencies in how we were going to do it. So we decided to make it a consistent way. So we are giving you permission, I guess. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's okay if you have a patient that has a pre-op creatinine of 4 or greater, and they're not on dialysis pre-op, they get dialysis post-op, you can still say no to pre-op, post-op dialysis and renal failure because that patient has a creatinine of greater than 4. It's going to be excluded. It's not even going to be in the metric. So I'm hoping that I've been reading all these questions, so I hope that explains it.
Yeah, I can add a little bit more to that, Melinda, if you want.
Yes.
The reason why this patient, so what's collected in the STS database under complications are complications related to surgery. This patient who had a pre-op creatinine of 4.5 preoperatively is already considered to be in renal failure. So they're not a new complication related to surgery. The complication was present before surgery, so we do not code it as a complication after surgery. The reason why I exclude these why you exclude these patients, and the same reason why a warning fires if you code these patients who are greater than 4 preoperatively and then code post-op renal failure, you'll get a warning on in the IQVIA platform. The reason why that fires is because they cannot be a new complication. And the reason why I exclude them is because they are excluded in analysis, which means my numbers will be off. So I might have data at my site that says I have so many renal failure patients if I query my vendor software, and that's going to be a discrepancy between between that and what comes back from analysis. So that's why those patients are excluded. That's why I was excluding them. So we just agreed to put this language in. Is that helpful, or did I totally did I do okay with that?
I think you did great. I think, and I see some questions further down. Some people are still, I think people are saying, hey, can we still code renal failure if we want for our own record, even if, and let the metric exclude it?
You certainly can, but your data is going to be wrong. These patients are not new renal failure patients as a complication from surgery. So you can certainly code that, but you would have to make sure that you know that when you get your data back from DCRI, as it has always been, that these patients are not going to show up in your analyzed data set as being renal failure patients. So your counts are going to be different than what you have on your local software versus what you have on in your analyzed report. I hope that helped. Heidi's got it. Okay. Melinda, you want to talk about a Coumadin ridge? I Googled it, and I can Google it again.
You know what? I Googled it too. And then I reached out to Dr. Badwire so I'll tell you what a Coumadin ridge is. It's a prominent muscular ridge of tissue that lies in the left atrium, in between the left superior pulmonary vein and the left atrial appendage. And I think that it's most often ablated during a convergent procedure, or at least the question that was sent to me had to do with a convergent procedure. Plus, they did this Coumadin ridge lesion, and what Dr. Badwar told me is that the surgeon was probably trying to do an LLA lesion, but it's really not an LAA lesion. It has its own little, it's not a true LAA line. So when you see the Coumadin ridge lesion, you just code that as other lesion, because it's not an LAA line and it's not really technically part of the convergent procedure. Either it can be done with the convergent procedure. So if you had this done during the convergent procedure, you would say yes to the convergent and yes to another lesion.
Thank you. Thank you, Melinda. It was a tricky one. Okay. MVRR includes replacements and repairs. Yes, that's correct. It's mitral valve repair and replacements as a combination. What is the time frame for volume requirements? So bring this slide back up. Sorry for the scrolling, everybody. So we're going to look at 36 months of data, but there is no time frame to obtain these 50 isolated CABG cases. They just have to be 50 cases within a 36-month time frame. They can be all from 1 year, or they can be spread out over the 36 months. Same thing for the AVR and AVR cabbages, for the MVRR, and for the MVRR plus cabbages. These are also 36 months, 36-month composites, but these procedures can occur at any time frame within that 36 months. Will the mortality threshold stay the same moving forward, July through June every year? Yes, that's right. It will stay July through June every year at the 2% or less. Will allow you to get a star rating, and will allow you to get your composite score and your benchmarks. And then also January 1st through December 31st for the Harvest 1 reports. So July 1st through June 30th for Harvest 3 reports, and January 1st through December 30th for the Harvest 1 reports. Okay. I think we got all these questions done for the creatinine. If we missed any, let me know, because I just deleted those. So
I think there was one question that said, do they have to go back and change their data? No, this is, everything moves forward when
Yeah.
the training manual comes up, update comes out. So
that's right. And these were already being excluded on the, when we say back end, we mean data analytics. So the front end is what you're doing, is the data abstraction and the data cleanup. That's the front end. And then the back end is when the analysis is performed, that's the back end, when the analytics center does their thing. So they were already being excluded on the back end, which means your renal failure patients were being adjusted if you coded it as a new renal failure, if they did have a post-op creatinine or pre-op creatinine greater than or equal to 4. So no reason to go back and change anything. So Carol and Melinda, I understand what you're saying, but the data point in the STS asks if the patient was dialysis pre-op, yes or no. So if the creatinine is greater than 4, but they were not on dialysis, then what is the DM to do? The same thing. So a patient who is on pre-op dialysis is excluded from being a post-op renal failure complication. And a patient who has a creatinine, pre-op creatinine greater or equal to 4 is also considered to not be a new post-op renal failure complication. I hope that makes sense. Your conversations are cutting out a lot, so we are missing a lot of what are you saying. Is everybody else hearing me okay? And I hear Melinda okay. Melinda?
I'm hearing you fine, Carol.
yeah, I hear you.
I'm hearing you fine.
Okay, Sherry, you may want to try to reconnect. Sorry, you're having issues. Are we allowed to change the endocarditis cases that were done in September and the post-op dialysis cases as well? So you don't need to change the post-op dialysis cases. You certainly can go back and update those, but you don't need to. The endocarditis cases done in September, this is the update that was put into the training manual.
It's for October. It's for
it's-
October. So we're
Yes.
not, the expectation, and even from surgeon leadership, is not to go back and change this.
Great.
This is something moving forward, and I just want to be clear about that. It's moving
Yeah.
forward, October forward.
Starting in October with October 1 cases. Okay. There was a couple questions. I just wanted to go over the AQO, what's being offered and when. I'm in meetings, live courses, 2021 advances in quality and outcomes. So you can register here, and then I'm going to look at the detailed agenda. This is Intermax Day. I don't see the sessions on here yet, and I might just be missing them for the beginning of the day. They'll probably be posted in the final agenda that's online. I think the platform's open now. So there's a question about the new measure that Melissa put in here regarding the new multi-procedural, the participant level composite measure. So that will be discussed on Thursday at the AQO session with Dr. Shahian and Dr. Desai. And we're also going to talk about the the aorta risk model development. So that's going to be a great presentation to make sure you join. And then the endocarditis discussion and we were talking about is going to be in the afternoon at 4:25 Eastern. So I highly recommend you join that one. All of these are very important, but if I had a busy day, I think the two that I would want to see are the new models, the two that I would want to be part of live, just so I can have time to ask questions, is the new models and the endocarditis coding. So, okay. For Coumadin Ridge, is this considered an intracardiac or epicardial?
Well, I'm sitting here reading about it fast and feverishly. I mean, it looks to me like it could go either way. So I guess depending on how it's written in the op note, because it talks about the Coumadin Ridge can extend into the left atrium. And then it also talks about it being between the pulmonary veins on the atrium. So I know that's not a good answer, but I think it's probably more epicardial than it is intracardiac. But again, I think it would depend on how it's written in that op note.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just ask Renee about that. I'll send a question to him.
Yeah, thank you. And we can talk about it more too in the training manual. But I don't know on that one. Will the decrease in surgeries during COVID make an adjustment in the numbers needed? So we are decreasing COVID positive patients. It doesn't look to have that large of an impact, but we are not making any concessions for that required 50 case count. Actually, sites were more likely, they did look at, when they were looking at establishing a case count requirement, more sites were allowed in with the 50 per 3-year case count than the current number of 10 per year. So that's interesting. Melinda, do you want to take this one about the pulmonary? Is it correct to code a pulmonary vein, a right pulmonary vein isolation as other?
Well, no, we have a selection for pulmonary vein isolation. So that's where that should be collected. In sequence 4244, there's a pulmonary vein isolation choice.
Thank you. Maybe for the next revision, we can just put the 2 renal failure exclusions in the risk section. So it reads, was patient on dialysis or had a creatinine greater or equal to 4. So I think that's a great idea, Beth, and maybe we can report it out that way. But I think sites like to see their preoperative dialysis patients separately from the creatinine. So even though we use both of those fields to pull out patients who were also coded as post-op renal failure when they were not new post-op renal failure patients. Sites like to look at their dialysis patients. They like to multivariate analysis, just look at dialysis and pre-op patients and look at patients with their creatinine of different levels. That's a good idea, and we could talk about it further when we do the next revision. Okay. So then the dialysis question is not really looked at, but rather the creatinine of 4 or greater is what will trigger the warning. Did I get that right? Actually, both are looked at. So the dialysis question is looked at and the creatinine question is looked at. It's an or statement. So it says if patient is pre-op dialysis or has a creatinine of 4 or greater, then they're excluded from the post-op renal failure complication. So we look at both of those questions. And I can show you where that's at. Maybe that'll help. It's listed in multiple places. You can find it in the report overview. This is the NQF measure document, and I know that's real small. Okay. So this is the renal failure one, and the exclusions are dialysis is marked yes, or last creatinine level is greater or equal to 4. So patients with documented history of renal failure, baseline serum creatinine greater or equal to 4, and then the dialysis if that's marked yes. So those are what causes the exclusion. Will you go over the case count for MVRR cases? Okay. Yeah, I get confused on that too. Oh, okay. So MVRR, you need to have 36 procedures to be included in the composite. For MVRR plus CABGs, the case count is 25 procedures are required to be included. I agree. This language in the report overview is confusing. I'm going to fix it, I think. Will there be a time for us to have a TAVR case count, maybe joining the data we sent to the NCDR for that field? That is actually something that STS and ACC are in discussion about, and currently right now, no, we don't have that. The TAVR cases, if you do submit those into the adult cardiac database, we don't report those out right now, but it is something I think that we could possibly discuss with surgeon leadership for an elaboration. It wouldn't be a full comparison though, because we don't have all of the cases in the STS adult cardiac that are in the TVT registry. So it is something that STS surgeon leadership is talking about. So as an EP nurse, we always try to isolate the coumated ridge. Maybe this person would like to tell us what a coumated ridge, what we do if it's intra or epicardial.
Well, I got an answer already. Epicardial. It's epicardial. Okay.
Thanks, Melinda.
Yeah.
You were feverishly Googling.
No, I was feverishly sending emails. Sometimes you get answers really quickly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're welcome. It is an or statement. Okay, how would we chart for COVID if they change policy? If a person is vaccinated, so they do not test the patient prior to OR. So if they don't test them, that answer is still no, because the question is did the patient have a positive COVID PCR test? So you cannot have a positive test if you didn't have a test. So you still code that as no. Checking on the audit process, has anyone gotten the results? We sent our data in March and not have heard anything. No, I talked about that a little bit earlier. The results are coming in. The complete audit has not, all of the sites have not yet finished their audit. HMS, who's the company that performed the audit for us this year, is working on putting those final reports together. We just had a call with them this morning to go over the template. So they're finishing that up. And we hope to have those out, the results out probably in the next couple months. We just have to run things by the surgeon. But no one has gotten any results yet. But they're looking good. I know we do not round creatinine. Is it to the only one decimal place for both pre-op and post-op levels? We go out to, for version 4.20.2, it goes out to the hundreds. So it goes out 2 decimal places for both pre-op and post-op creatinine. And I'll show you where to find that. I only know that because it was an issue. I don't have like a brilliant brain or anything like that. I just remember it being an issue. So put this up. We've got a couple minutes. I think this is a great call, and it seems like we're getting through the questions pretty good here. Oh. Is that what I wanted, Melinda? Sometimes you need to stop me when I start clicking in the wrong spot.
I'm sorry. I was researching.
All right.
I'm ahead of you. I'm already looking at the other questions.
Okay. So under data specifications is where you're going to find out how many decimal points it's listed and what we kind of expect from the vendor. I'm going to simplify this, and I hope that Paul Meehan from IQVIA doesn't chime in when we talk about. Let's see. Don't chime in, Paul.
I'm okay.
So last creatinine level, we have out to the hundredths in the data specifications. The vendors can allow you to enter any range, not any range, can allow you to enter in however many decimal points you put in. It really is up to the vendor, but minimum, we want the vendors to allow out to the hundredths. And then that's the pre-op one, and then the post-op creatinine, we do the same thing out to the hundredths for both of the post-op creatinine fields. That was fixed from version, well, not what I'm not going to say anymore. It just allows you to go out to the hundredths. As a third-party abstractor, how would I document May's lesions when the surgeon states he did a 6 lesion set? Oh, Lori, could you, I'm going to have Lori submit this question into the FAQ mailbox, Melinda.
Yeah, and send me the op note, Lori, without identifiers.
The de-identified op note and the question to the FAQ mailbox, please. Are the on-demand AQO meetings available to view now? Yeah, my understanding is that it opened last night, so you should be able to get in there and view them. I don't know how to do it, but I think I was told it was open last night. The patient had a right and left PVI. So Julie, you might want to submit that question.
Well, I think I know what she's getting at. The pulmonary vein isolation choice includes either bilateral or unilateral isolation. So if you had a right and a left, you're still going to check PVI. If you had a right, you're going to check PVI. If you just had a left, you're going to check PVI. So it can either be unilateral or bilateral are captured in the pulmonary vein isolation checkbox. Sequence 40 to 44.
Oh, dear Lord.
Well, you had it right there.
I know, this mouse, it's killing me today. It's so touchy. There we go.
There it is.
This guy.
Yep.
Okay.
Heidi's given us a anatomy lesson on the Coumadin ridge. Thank you, Heidi.
Coumadin ridge, also called warfarin ridge or left lateral ridge, is a band-like embryological remnant in the left atrium between the left superior pulmonary vein and the left atrial appendage. It is considered an anatomical variant. The ridge is formed by the collection of the left superior pulmonary vein and the left atrial appendage, which results in a lateral fold of the left atrial wall tissue. The ridge contains the ligament of Marshall, anatomic nerve bundle, and small atrial and SA node artery. Thank you, Heidi. Very helpful. All right. Oh, and Heidi provided the source link. Good job. Thanks, Heidi. How would I code a patient that is having an MVR for endocarditis and a mitral annular abscess debridement? No patch was used. I think you answered this, Melinda, but you might want to answer it again.
I'm thinking I might need to look at that op note, but I'm thinking if there's no reconstruction of the annulus, then it's probably just going to be an MVR. But if Lisa, if you want to send that op note in, just so we can verify that there's no reconstruction of that annulus. And if they didn't use a patch, I suspect there's not. So it's probably just going to be an isolated MVR.
Yeah, it's always, yeah, thanks, Melinda. Please repeat the procedure that will change an isolated valve procedure to other.
Okay, so what we're talking about, and Carol, can you go back to that slide that had the update? In the October training manual, for endocarditis patients, an aortic or mitral valve replacement, which requires the use of patch reconstruction, that's key, of any part of the aortic and or mitral valve annulus, that's the second key, increases the inherent risk of the procedure, justifying the coding of sequence 4135, other cardiac, other. Sometimes you will see this as they'll start talking about how they reconstructed the atrial mitral curtain. They did a patch. They completely reconstructed the annulus because of the infection that had involved parts of the annulus. So it involves a pretty extensive past reconstruction of any part of the annulus. And this only applies to endocarditis patients. If you have patients that aren't endocarditis patients and things like this are being done, send those questions in for review. Generally speaking, you're not going to see those kind of things done unless there's some other issue going on or issue that occurs intraoperatively. So I hope that explains that.
Thank you. I think so. I think that explained it. So if they ablate the ligament of Marshall, I get a little nervous answering more clinical questions on here because I don't want to put us in a spot. But if they ablate the ligament of Marshall along with the convergent procedure, should we capture other as well?
I think that's just part of the convergent procedure.
The ligation of the ligation.
I think that all goes in. I could be wrong. There's that EP expert on the phone here, so maybe she knows, the nurse. But I think that's just part of the convergent, that ligament of Marshall, because yeah, I mean, they have to separate that ligament of Marshall to get to certain places to ablate certain things, but I hardly ever see it ablated. So if anybody knows the answer to that, please raise your hand.
Anybody? Okay. And Heidi put thanks, Melinda. Heidi put the link in the Q&A there. I think everybody should be able to see it. And we don't have anything else and we're right at time. I guess the website has the, oh geez, the website has the, you guys are going to think I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. There we go. The website has the user group call listed for, and I have to get this updated. I just want to point it out because somebody mentioned it. So I'm sure that I'm glad that everybody, that folks are using the webinars page to check when the next webinars are coming up. We have the next user group call is October 20th. This call has been canceled. So the next call that we will have is going to be the November monthly webinar, which is going to be on November 3rd at 2 p.m. Central. Okay, so I think my surgeon discussed the ligament of Marshall in her presentation we had for our regional group. Oh, thanks, Heidi. Yeah, and we can certainly pass that out to the group if you don't mind, if the regional group doesn't mind sharing that if it was in there. Really appreciate it. Thank you. All right, so we're pretty much done here. I want to thank everybody for joining, and I hope to see you all at AQO. If you get a chance, please check out the pre-recorded talks. Most of them are posted. I think we may have been waiting on a few more. If you haven't registered, be sure to get registered, even if you can't attend on the day, on the live days. That way you'll have access to the recordings afterwards and share that with your friends as well, your abstracting friends. Thank you. Great. Thank you for joining, Sharina. See you all at AQO. I wish we were in person, but hopefully next year. And have fun. I'll see you all on, I think hopefully you'll join Tuesday morning. Because don't forget, I have Sophie and Molly will be joining me. I won't be bike riding that day.
You're bad, Carol.
Riding. Yeah,
you're bad. You're cheating. You're cheating, Carol.
All right. Thanks, everybody. All right. Thanks again. Have a great day. We'll see you all later.
Have a great day. Great call, Carol. Great job, guys.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye, everybody.